Hello guys, welcome to Fiction Quest. So in this video, we will see, what if Naruto was reborn in One Piece and built a harem with Nami, Nico, Robin, and Boa Hancock? If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Chapter 1. Rebirth in Blue. The sensation of drowning faded as consciousness returned. Salt water burned his lungs, his limbs felt leaden, but instinct drove him upward. Breaking the surface with a desperate gasp, the young man's eyes flew open to meet a brilliant blue sky. Where? The single word escaped his lips before another wave crashed over him. Fighting against the current, he spotted a rocky shoreline not far away. His body moved almost automatically, arms cutting through the water with practiced efficiency he didn't know he possessed. When his feet finally touched sand, he collapsed onto the beach, coughing violently as seawater spilled from his lungs. Minutes passed as he lay there, mind whirling with disconnected fragments of memory, a war, a sacrifice, a goodbye to friends whose faces he could almost remember but whose names escaped him. Something about a fox, a promise. He pushed himself to his knees, looking down at unfamiliar clothes, torn black pants and the shredded remains of an orange jacket. Around his neck, a necklace with a small green crystal pulsed with faint light. "Who am I?" he whispered, pressing his palms against his temples. A name surfaced from the fog. Uzumaki. Menma. It didn't sound quite right, but it was all he had. Rising unsteadily to his feet, Menma surveyed his surroundings. The beach stretched along a crescent bay, backed by dense jungle. In the distance, smoke rose from what might be a settlement. With nowhere else to go, he headed toward it. As he walked, he became aware of something coursing through his body, an energy both familiar and strange. On instinct, he raised his hand and concentrated. Blue energy flickered around his palm, then stabilized into a swirling sphere that illuminated his sun-bronzed skin and the three whisker-like marks on each cheek. Rasengan, he murmured, the name coming unbidden to his lips. The sphere dissipated as his concentration broke. What is this power? The jungle path eventually opened to reveal a small fishing village. Wooden buildings with thatched roofs clustered around a natural harbor where modest boats bobbed in the gentle waves. The sight triggered no recognition. Villagers stopped to stare as he approached, their expressions guarded. An elderly man with a long white beard stepped forward, leaning on a gnarled staff. "Another shipwreck survivor?" the old man asked. "Or are you a pirate?" "Neither, I think." Menma shook his head. "I woke up in the ocean. I don't remember how I got here." The old man studied him carefully, eyes lingering on the whisker marks and the crystal around Menma's neck. "Devil fruit user, perhaps. The sea doesn't treat your kind well." Devil fruit. The term tickled something in Menma's mind but refused to connect. "You're not from these waters, are you, boy?" The elder's expression softened slightly. "I'm Tora, the village elder. This is Shellfish Island, southern edge of the Grand Line." None of the words meant anything to Menma, but he nodded anyway. "I'm Menma, Uzumaki D. Menma." The middle initial slipped out without thought, feeling right somehow. Tora's eyebrows rose. A-D-E-H. "Interesting company we keep today." He gestured toward the village center. "Come, you look half-starved. We can offer some food, at least." Menma followed, acutely aware of the villagers' stares. Children peeked from behind their mothers' skirts, pointing at his whisker marks and whispering excitedly. The atmosphere felt tense, as if the village held its collective breath. At the central square, Tora led him to a modest tavern. Inside, a F.A.W. fisherman nursed drinks while a broad-shouldered woman with graying hair worked behind the counter. She looked up as they entered, eyes narrowing at Menma. "Another stray, Tora?" she asked, voice rough but not unkind. "This one's interesting. Misa says his name is Uzumaki D. Menma." The woman's hand paused mid-wipe on a glass. "A-D. And those marks. Not a fishman, are you, boy?" "I don't think so." Menma touched his cheek self-consciously. "They're just marks." Misa set a bowl of steaming fish stew before him. "Eat. You look like you need it." The food awakened a ravenous hunger. As Menma ate, villagers gathered around, curiosity overcoming wariness. Their questions came rapid fire. "Where are you from?" Are you a pirate or a marine? What brought you to our shores? Menma could answer none of them. I don't remember much, he admitted. Just my name, and... He trailed off, unwilling to mention the strange energy he could summon. Memory loss isn't uncommon after trauma, Tora said. It may return in time. A commotion outside interrupted their conversation, shouts and running feet. A young man burst through the tavern door, face flushed with exertion and fear. Pirates, he gasped. The Black Wake crew. 3 ships approaching the harbor. The atmosphere transformed instantly. Men reached for weapons, women hurried to gather children. Misa pulled a shotgun from beneath the counter. Not now, Tora groaned. We just paid their protection fee last month. They're flying combat colors, the messenger added. Captain Kurohige said he's tired of our insufficient contributions. Menma stood, the energy inside him surging in response to the danger. How many pirates? Tora looked at him sharply. Boy, whatever you're thinking, stop. These aren't small-time thugs. The Black Wake has a 30 million berry bounty on their captain. The amount meant nothing to Menma, but the threat to innocent people resonated with something deep inside him. I can help. With what? You just washed ashore half dead. Instead of answering, Menma walked outside. The harbor was visible from the village square, and indeed, 3 black-sailed ships approached, still a few minutes from docking. Villagers rushed about, some fleeing inland, others gathering improvised weapons. Menma closed his eyes, reaching for the energy flowing through him. It responded eagerly, rushing to the surface. When he opened his eyes again, several villagers stepped back, gasping. He knew, somehow, that his eyes had changed, perhaps glowing with power. Get everyone back, he told Tora, who had followed him outside. I'll handle this. Before anyone could argue, Menma leapt, and kept rising, 20 feet into the air with ease. He landed on a rooftop, then sprang toward the harbor in impossible bow. Oons that left the villagers staring in shock. As he reached the docks, the first pirate ship was just mooring. Rough-looking men with cutlasses and pistols lined the rail, grinning menacingly at the few fishermen who hadn't fled. Where's our money, island trash? Bellowed a massive man with a forked black beard and a captain's hat. Captain Kurohige's patience is at an end. Menma landed on the dock before them. Orange chakra beginning to shimmer around his body. The sensation felt right. This power was his, had always been his, even if he couldn't remember why or how. Leave this village alone, he said. Voice calm but carrying across the water. The pirates stared for a moment, then burst into laughter. What's this? A welcoming committee of one. Kurohige sneered. Stand aside, whisker face. Or we'll use your guts for fishing line. Menma didn't move. Last warning. Kill him, Kurohige ordered with a dismissive wave. 3 pirates jumped to the dock, weapons drawn. Menma moved. Faster than they could track. One moment he stood before them. The next, he was behind them, not having appeared to cross the space between. All 3 pirates collapsed, unconscious from strikes they never saw. The laughter died. Captain Kurohige's expression darkened as he drew a massive cutlass. Devil fruit user, EH. What's your power, boy? Speed. Let's see if you bleed like everyone else. He jumped down, surprisingly agile for his bulk, and swung the blade in a whistling arc toward Menma's neck. Menma caught the sword between 2 fingers, the metal trembling against his grip. Not a devil fruit, Menma said, feeling the truth of it as he spoke. Something else. With a flick of his wrist, he snapped the blade. Before Kurohige could recover from his shock, Menma's palm slammed into his chest. The pirate captain flew backward, crashing through the rail of his own ship and into the mast with bone-crushing force. The remaining pirates stared in stunned silence. Take your captain and go, Menma commanded. Don't return to this island. One brave, or foolish, pirate raised a pistol. Menma vanished in a blur and reappeared atop the ship's railing, looking down at the now trembling man. I said go. The pirates scrambled to obey, dragging their unconscious captain below deck. Within minutes, all 3 ships had weighed anchor and were retreating into the open sea, their black sails billowing in hasty retreat. Menma jumped back to the dock as villagers cautiously emerged from hiding. Their expressions had transformed from fear to awe. That was. Tora approached slowly. What are you? Menma looked down at his hand. where the orange energy still flickered faintly before fading. I'm not sure, but I think I used to protect people, before. News of the confrontation spread through the village like wildfire. By evening, the tavern overflowed with villagers wanting to thank their mysterious defender. Children had overcome their shyness and bombarded Menma with questions about his abilities. Can you fly? Are you a superhero? Can you beat Admiral Akainu? Menma smiled at their enthusiasm but had few answers. The name, Admiral Akainu, stirred something unpleasant in H's memory, a sense of fire and hatred, but nothing concrete formed. As night fell, Tora offered Menma a small hut near the village edge. It's not much, but it's yours for as long as you need it. Shellfish Island owes you a debt. Thank you, Menma said, but I won't stay long. Something tells me I need to keep moving. The sea calls to many. Tora nodded sagely. But be careful, what you did, Tota. Why? Defeating a bounty pirate without breaking a sweat will not go unnoticed. The Marines have eyes everywhere. Marines. The word triggered another fragment of memory, uniforms, a sense of justice stead into something rigid and unyielding. The world government's military force. They maintain order on the seas, supposedly. Tora's tone suggested his opinion of them was complicated. They hunt pirates, but they're not always friends to small villages either. I understand. Though he didn't, not really. This world's politics remained a mystery to Menma, but the underlying dynamics felt familiar, powerful forces using their strength to control others, not always justly. That night, Menma sat cross-legged on the floor of his borrowed hut, trying to organize his scattered memories. When he closed his eyes and turned his attention inward, he found himself in a strange mental landscape, a vast chamber with pipes running along the walls and shallow water covering the floor. Hello, his voice echoed in the emptiness. No response came, but he sensed he wasn't alone, or hadn't been once. Something important had resided here, something powerful and fierce that had become part of him. All T had remained now was a lingering warmth and the orange energy that responded to his call. Kurama, he whispered, the name surfacing unexpectedly. Was that your name, friend? The chamber remained silent, but the water rippled as if in acknowledgement. Morning brought Menma to the docks, where he helped the fishermen repair minor damage from the pirates' brief visit. His strength and stamina amazed them. He could lift beams that normally required 4 men, and worked tirelessly from dawn until midday without rest. You're not human, are you? Asked one weathered fisherman as they shared lunch. I am, Menma replied, though uncertainty nagged at him. Just different, I guess. Like those monster rookies making waves in the Grand Line, another man chimed in. Straw Hat Luffy and his crew. Challenging the world government itself. They say he's got powers too. The name, Luffy, triggered no recognition, but the concept of challenging corrupt authority resonated deeply. Had that been part of his purpose before? As the day progressed, dark clouds gathered on the horizon. The fishermen eyed them warily, securing their boats and bringing in their nets early. Bad storm coming, Tora predicted, joining Menma on the dock. The air feels wrong, not natural. By late afternoon, the sky had darkened ominously. Wind whipped the palm trees, and massive waves began hammering the protective reef offshore. The villagers retreated to their homes, battening down against the coming tempest. Menma remained at the harbor, watching the churning sea with a strange fascination. The wind tugged at his clothes and hair, but the elemental fury felt almost welcoming, as if storms had been his companions before. That's when he saw it, a small vessel being tossed violently by the waves, struggling to navigate the reef passage into the harbor's safety. Through the driving rain, Menma made out a solitary figure fighting desperately with the sail and rudder. Without hesitation, he channeled chakra to his feet and ran across the water toward the imperiled boat. The technique came naturally, his body remembering what his mind had forgotten. As he drew closer, he saw the sailor was a young woman with bright orange hair plastered to her face by rain. She worked the rigging with practiced skill, but the storm's fury was overwhelming her small craft. Need help? Menma called over the howling wind. The woman's head snapped up, eyes widening at the sight of someone standing on the water beside her boat. What the? How are you? A massive wave interrupted her, crashing over the vessel and nearly capsizing it. When the water cleared, Menma had leapt aboard and steadied the craft with inhuman strength. "I'll get you to harbor," he shouted. "Just tell me what to do." After a moment of shocked hesitation, the woman nodded. "Take the sail line. We need to reduce canvas or we'll flip." They worked in tandem, Menma following her expert commands. Despite the chaos, he noticed details about her, the determined set of her jaw, the weather-reading expertise in her eyes, and a strange tattoo on her shoulder partially visible through her soaked shirt. When a particularly violent wave snapped the rudder, Menma created shadow clones without thinking, 3 perfect copies of himself materializing in puffs of smoke. The woman nearly fell overboard in shock. "What kind of devil fruit?" "Hold tight," Menma interrupted as his clones jumped into the water and began pushing the boat toward the harbor, their chakra-enhanced strength fighting against the current. Inside the protected waters, the worst of the storm's fury abated. As they approached the dock, villagers emerged from shelter to help secure the boat. The woman collapsed onto the deck, exhausted but safe. "That was some impressive sailing," Menma said, offering his hand. She took it cautiously, studying him with sharp brown eyes. "And that was some impossible power. You're not using a devil fruit, are you? You were standing on water. It's called chakra." The explanation came automatically. "I can control it to do various things. I've sailed a lot of seas and never heard of chakra," she said skeptically. "I'm Nami, by the way, navigator of the Straw Hat Pirates." The title meant nothing to Menma, but he noted how the villagers reacted, whispers and wide eyes at the mention of Straw Hat. "Uzumaki D. Menma," he replied with a slight bow. "Newcomer too." "Well, everything, it seems." Tora approached, offering a blanket to the soaked navigator. "A Straw Hat Pirate, your captain has made quite a name for himself. What brings you to our humble island?" Nami wrapped the blanket around her shoulders. "Storm separation. We were caught in a magnetic anomaly that scattered our ship's crew. I was trying to reach the rendezvous point when this storm hit." She glanced at Menma. "If not for your water-walking friend here, I'd probably be feeding the Sea Kings by now." Menma arrived only yesterday himself, Tora explained. "Washed ashore with no memory. Then drove off the Black Wake pirates single-handedly." Nami's expression sharpened with interest. "No memory. And those abilities." Her eyes traced the whisker marks on his cheeks. "Are you sure you're not a fishman hybrid?" "Pretty sure," Menma said. "Though I don't know what that is." Inside the tavern, Misa provided dry clothes and hot food. As the storm raged outside, Nami explained her situation more fully to Menma. "Our ship, the Thousand Sunny, was navigating a particularly tricky section of the Grand Line when we hit an underwater current unlike anything I've charted before. It generated some kind of vortex that sent us flying in different directions. Luffy, our captain, managed to call out a rendezvous point before we lost sight of each other." "This happens often?" Menma asked. Nami shrugged. "The Grand Line is unpredictable. Though this felt different. Almost deliberate." She studied him over her steaming mug. "So what's your story?" "Tora said you have no memories." "Just fragments. I know my name. I know how to fight and use this energy, chakra. I get feelings, sometimes. Like I had an important mission once. And the D in your name. You remember that?" Menma nodded. "It feels significant, but I don't know why." "The will of D." Nami's voice lowered. "It's something important in this world. My captain carries it too, Monkey D. Luffy." For a moment, Menma felt a strange connection to this unknown captain. Perhaps they shared some common destiny. "The Marines will be searching for me," Nami continued, changing subjects abruptly. "The Straw Hats are not exactly in the world government's good graces. Pirates usually aren't," Tora commented from nearby. Nami smiled slightly. "We're not typical pirates. Anyway, I ed to reach Horizon Point within 3 days to meet the others. With my boat damaged, I could help," Menma offered, surprising himself. "I need to find my own path anyway. Maybe helping you will trigger more memories." Nami studied him, clearly calculating risks and benefits. "Your abilities would certainly be useful. But fair warning, associating with me puts you on the wrong side of the Marines. Whatever fresh start you're hoping for could be compromised." Menma felt a smile tugging at his lips. "Something tells me I've been on the wrong side of authority before." Later that night, as the storm began to subside, Menma stood on the beach, letting the rain wash over him. The decision to help Nami felt right, like stepping onto a path he was meant to follow. He raised his hand, consent. Rating Intel chakra swirled visibly around his palm. The energy felt both familiar and different, as if something had changed during his transition to this world. When he pushed more power into it, the blue chakra took on orange highlights. Reminiscent of flames. Impressive light show. He turned to find Nami watching from a few yards away, sheltered under a wide-brimmed hat against the lingering drizzle. Just testing, he explained, letting the chakra dissipate. I've seen devil fruit powers that can create fire, ice, even darkness itself, she said, approaching. But nothing quite like what you do. Those copies of yourself on the boat, they were solid, weren't they? Menma nodded. Shadow clones. They're physical duplicates, not illusions. And they can touch water without weakness. Her eyes narrowed thoughtfully. Every devil fruit user loses strength in seawater. It's their universal weakness. I'm not from here, Menma said, the certainty growing as he spoke. This world, I mean. Instead of dismissing him, Nami considered his words carefully. The Grand Line is full of impossible things. Other worlds, why not? She pulled something from her pocket, a small device like a compass, but with a needle that spun erratically. This is a log pose. It navigates the magnetic fields between islands. When we hit that strange current, it went crazy and then pointed directly at T's island for a moment before returning to normal. You think I'm connected to that anomaly? I think, Nami said slowly, that someone with your abilities appearing out of nowhere, at the exact place my log pose briefly fixated on. That's not coincidence. Morning revealed the storm's aftermath. Debris scattered across the beach, damaged roofs, but nothing catastrophic. The villagers set about repairs with practiced efficiency. Menma helped, using his shadow clones to multiply the workforce, while Nami examined her damaged boat. The hull's intact, but we'll need a new rudder and rigging, she concluded. 2 days' work, at least. Menma approached with an armful of salvaged timber. I can help speed that up. Before she could respond, a shout came from the village lookout post on the hill. Ship approaching. Marines. The words sent an immediate ripple of tension through the villagers. Nami's expression hardened as she peered out to sea, where a white-sailed vessel with distinctive blue markings approached. Not good, she muttered. That's a captain-class ship. Tora hurried over, face grim. They must have picked up the Black Wake's distress call. Or worse, they're already looking for you, Straw Hat Navigator. Either way, I need to disappear. Nami turned to Menma, and you should distance yourself from me. There's no bounty on your head yet. Something rebellious flared in Menma's chest. I don't abandon friends. The word, friends, had slipped out naturally, but it made Nami pause. After a moment, she gave a brief nod. Then we need a plan. Fast. Within minutes, they had retreated to Menma's hut at the village edge. Nami spread out a map of the island, pointing to a cove on the far side. There's a sea cave system here that might hide us until they leave. Menma studied the map, then shook his head. Too risky. If they search thoroughly, we'd be trapped. He pointed to the mountainous interior. High ground gives us options. I can move quickly through rough terrain. I can't leap across treetops like you, Nami countered. You won't have to. Menma grinned, forming a hand sign. Shadow clone jutsu. In a puff of smoke, a perfect duplicate appeared beside him. My clone can carry you if needed, and serve as a decoy if we're spotted. Nami blinked, clearly still adjusting to his abilities. That's actually brilliant. As the marine ship drew closer, they gathered essential supplies. Tora promised to misdirect any inquiries, insisting the villagers would protect them out of gratitude for Menma's actions against the pirates. The Marines aren't all bad, the old man said. But they follow orders without question. And orders concerning the Straw Hats are very clear. They slipped away as the marine vessel dropped anchor in the harbor. From the jungle's edge, Menma could see white uniformed soldiers disembarking, led by a tall figure in a captain's coat. Captain Highnote, Nami whispered. Mid-tier threat, known for thoroughness. You seem well informed about marine personnel. She smiled grimly. Know your enemy, especially when they're hunting you with orders to capture or kill. They moved inland, Menma easily navigating the dense jungle while Nami followed. When the terrain became too steep, his clone carried her without complaint. By midday, they had reached a plateau offering a clear view of both the village and the surrounding ocean. We should be safe here, Menma said, creating 2 more clones. These 2 will keep watch and warn us if Marines approach. Nami sank down against a boulder, clearly exhausted despite her tough demeanor. So this chakra of yours, it lets you create copies, walk on water, enhance your strength. What else? Menma sat across from her. I'm not entirely sure. It feels like I once knew many techniques. But they're just out of reach in my memory. Try, she suggested. Something might come back. Nodding, Menma closed his eyes and focused. The energy flowed more readily now, as if awakening further with use. Without conscious thought, his hands formed unfamiliar patterns. Seals, his mind supplied. Tiger, dragon, snake, earth style, earth wall jutsu. The ground before him erupted, as a solid wall of stone rose 6 feet high, startling nearby birds into flight. That's, Nami stood, touching the wall with amazement. Not even Logia-type devil fruits can create something so solid from nothing. Menma stared at his hands. I didn't know I could do that until just now. Over the next hour, he experimented further, discovering abilities to manipulate wind, create defensive barriers of pure chakra, and even transform his appearance. Each technique felt like recovering a lost treasure, pieces of himself falling back into place. In my world, he said, the memories clarifying as he spoke, these were ninja arts. There were villages of shinobi, trained from childhood to master chakra. A world of ninjas, Nami smiled. Sounds as chaotic as this one. There were wars, Menma continued. Flashes of battles appearing in his mind. I fought in one, I think. Something huge, with the fate of everything at stake. And did you win? Nami asked softly. Menma touched the crystal around his neck. I don't know. I remember a sacrifice, pain, then darkness until I woke up here. Nami's expression softened with unexpected empathy. The not knowing would drive me crazy. All my life, I've needed to chart everything, understand the patterns. Maybe that's why we met, Menma suggested. You map the physical world, I need to map my past. Their conversation was interrupted by one of his clones appearing in a blur of movement. Marines, it reported. A squad heading this way, following our trail. Nami tensed, reaching for a staff strapped to her back. How many? 12, led by the captain himself. Menma stood. We should move deeper into the mountains. No, Nami shook her head. They're too persistent. We need to deal with them directly. She pulled out her staff, which suddenly extended segments with a mechanical click. I'm not just a navigator. Something about her determined stance stirred Menma's admiration. This woman was no helpless sailor, she was a fighter in her own right. Someone who had clearly faced danger repeatedly and survived. I have an idea, he said, forming another hand sign. But I'll need you to trust me. Captain Hinode led his Marines through the jungle with methodical precision. An experienced Grand Line officer, he recognized the signs of someone with superhuman abilities, broken branches too high up, footprints that sometimes vanished completely before reappearing yards later. The villagers claimed it was just the Straw Hat Girl, his lieutenant said quietly. But these tracks suggest someone else. Hinode nodded. Quote, reports mentioned an orange-haired woman accompanied by a blonde youth with facial markings. No known bounty, but allegedly defeated Captain Kurohige without effort. New Straw Hat recruit, perhaps, or another revolutionary agent. Either way, our orders are clear. They emerged into a small clearing and immediately tensed. Before them stood Menma, alone and seemingly relaxed. Good afternoon, Marines, he called cheerfully. Looking for someone. Hinode stepped forward, hand on his sword hilt. Uzumaki D. Menma, I am Captain Hinode of the Marines, Grand Line Division. You were suspected of associating with known pirates and harboring a fugitive. Surrender yourself and the Straw Hat Navigator. Menma scratched his head. Well, that's a problem. I don't think Nami wants to be harbored anywhere she doesn't choose herself. This is not a negotiation. Hinode drew his blade, a fine katana with a white hilt. Where is she? Safe, Menma replied, his casual demeanor unchanged. And I'd recommend you return to your ship. The jungle can be dangerous. Two Marines raised rifles, but Hinode stopped them with a gesture. You defeated a pirate captain with a 30 million berry bounty. Impressive for an unknown, but I assure you, the Marines are a different caliber of opponent. I don't want to fight you, Menma said, and meant it. Something in his past told him that violence should be the last resort. That understanding should be sought first. Admirable, but not your choice. Hinode moved with startling speed, his blade whistling toward Menma's shoulder in what appeared to be a disabling strike rather than a killing blow. Menma didn't dodge. Instead, the blade passed through him as if he were made of air, his image flickering slightly. A clone. Hinode spun, searching for the real target. Above you, a Marine shouted. Menma descended from the trees, hands already forming seals. Wind style. Gale palm. A concentrated burst of wind slammed into the ground, scattering the Marines and creating a dust cloud. Through the confusion, Menma engaged them non-lethally, precise strikes to pressure points, just enough force to disable without permanent injury. Hinode alone stood his ground, his blade now glowing with a faint blue light. Hockey and fusion, he explained, seeing Menma's curious glance. Your tricks won't work twice. The Marine captain was good, his swordsmanship fluid and precise, each strike calculated. But Menma moved with a natural grace that exceeded even Hinode's trained reflexes, evading the blade by millimeters each time. You're holding back, Hinode observed during a momentary pause. His breathing still controlled. Why? I told you, I don't want to fight. Menma kept his distance, chakra swirling visibly around his hands now. These men follow your orders. You follow your superiors. But has anyone questioned whether hunting people like Nami actually serves justice? Hinode's expression hardened. Philosophy from a pirate sympathizer. I'm not a pirate or a Marine. Just someone who believes in protecting people. The world government protects millions by maintaining order, Hinode countered. Individual pirates, no matter their personal codes, threaten that order. Their debate was interrupted by a sudden crash from the jungle's edge. Both men turned to see a massive tree toppling toward them, forced down by an unnatural gust of wind. As they leapt aside, Nami emerged from the forest, her staff crackling with electrical energy. Sorry to interrupt the ethics debate, she called, but we've got bigger problems. Marine reinforcement. Approaching from the coast. A second ship. Hinode's eyes widened. I issued no call for backup. Menma and Nami exchanged glances. Then who are they? Menma asked. The captain's expression grew troubled. There are elements within the Marines with extreme methods. Especially concerning the straw hats. The implications hung in the air. Hinode might be an honorable adversary, but whoever approached might not share his restraint. A distant explosion punctuated the moment, smoke rising from the direction of the village. They're attacking civilians, Nami said, horrified. Hinode straightened, sheathing his sword with a decisive movement. This operation is now compromised. Lieutenant, gather the men. We return to the village immediately. Menma stepped forward. You're going to help them. My duty is to protect citizens from all threats, even misguided allies. The captain's stern gaze met Menma's. Our confrontation is postponed, not abandoned. As the Marines regrouped, Menma created multiple shadow clones. My clones will help evacuate villagers. We'll be right behind you. Hinode paused, studying him with new consideration. Perhaps you are not what initial reports suggested. With a curt nod, he led his squad back toward the village at double time. Once they'd gone, Nami approached Menma. You trust him? No, Menma admitted, but I trust that he believes what he said about protecting innocents. For now, our goals align. They raced through the jungle, Menma's enhanced speed allowing them to overtake Hinode's squad before they reached the village. The scene that greeted them at the outskirts confirmed their fears. Several buildings burned, villagers fleeing, and white uniformed soldiers pursuing them with far more aggression than Hinode's men had shown. Those aren't regular Marines, Nami said grimly. See the armbands. Cipher Pol agents, the world government's secret enforcers. Anger flared in Menma's chest, a deep, protective fury that felt like an old friend. The orange highlights in his chakra intensified, and his whisker marks seemed to deepen. Get the villagers to safety, he told Nami. I'll handle these agents. Be careful, she warned. CP Age. NTS have special training beyond regular Marines. Some can use Rokushiki techniques, superhuman martial arts. Menma smiled, and for a moment, Nami stepped back at the feral quality it held. Good. I see. Old Yu's a real challenge to jog my memory. He didn't wait for her response, leaping directly into the village center where 3 agents had cornered Tora and several children against a burning building. The agents moved with unnatural quickness, fingers pointed like blades, finger pistol technique, Menma's instincts identified. Landing between them and the villagers, Menma's chakra exploded outward, rode in a visible wave that staggered the agents. Pick on someone who can fight back, he growled. The lead agent, a thin man with rectangular glasses, recovered first. Target identified. Uzumaki D. Menma. Suspected connection to subject Tempest. Capture priority upgraded. The formality of the declaration sent a chill down Menma's spine. This wasn't random pursuit. They knew something about him, something called subject Tempest. Before he could question them, all 3 attacked simultaneously, their movements coordinated with machine-like precision. Menma dodged the first 2, but the third Nected with a glancing blow to his shoulder that felt like being shot. Iron body technique, the agent explained tonelessly. Combined with finger pistol, Menma's body automatically channeled chakra to the injury, healing it within seconds. The agent's eyes widened marginally, the first real emotion they'd displayed. Rapid regeneration confirmed, one murmured. Consistent with subject profile. Who is subject Tempest? Menma demanded, creating 4 shadow clones that surrounded the agents. What do you know about me? Instead of answering, the agents shifted strategy. 2 engaged his clone, while the leader made hand signals to other agents scattered throughout the village. Whatever Menma was, these people considered him important enough to focus their entire operation on capturing him. The battle intensified as more agents converged. Menma found himself pushed to use more advanced techniques, a Rasengan that obliterated a stone wall an agent used for cover, wind-enhanced shuriken formed from pure chakra. Earth techniques to trap his opponents. Each successful technique brought more memories flooding back, training sessions with a white-haired man, battles alongside comrades who say faces grew clearer with each recalled moment, a village hidden among leaves that he had sworn to protect. Through the chaos, he caught glimpses of Nami using her staff to generate localized weather phenomena, lightning strikes that disabled agents, fog banks that provided cover for escaping villagers. Her fighting style complemented his own, focusing on area control while he engaged directly. Ca. Tane Hynode and his marines arrived minutes later, creating a 3-way confrontation as they tried to protect civilians while uncertain which side to take in the larger battle. Cipher Pole. Hynode confronted the bespectacled leader. This island is under marine jurisdiction. You have no authority to conduct independent operations here. We answer to higher authorities than marine captains, the agent replied coldly. Stand down or be classified as obstructing a priority mission. Menma landed beside Hynode, his jacket torn and singed but his stance unwavering. They're after me, Captain. Something about subject Tempest. Hynode's expression revealed nothing, but Menma sensed his calculation. That designation is above my clearance level. But you've heard it, Nami said, joining them with her staff at ready. A tense silence fell as regular Marines and Cipher Pole agents faced each other, villagers caught in between. The standoff might have erupted into full conflict if not for the sudden, earth-shaking boom that drew all eyes skyward. Above the island, the storm clouds that had lingered since the previous day began swirling unnaturally, forming a perfect spiral centered over the village. At its eye, the sky itself seemed to tear open, revealing a swirling vortex of energy reminiscent of the chakra Menma wielded. Spatial anomaly, the Cipher Pole leader stated, all pretense of emotion gone. Identical to subject Tempest's emergence pattern. What is that? Hynode demanded, but no one answered. The vortex pulsed, sending waves of pressure that knocked several people off their feet. Menma alone stood firm, the crystal around his neck glowing in response to the phenomenon. Within his mind, fragments coalesced into understanding. This was how he had arrived, through a tear between worlds created by his final technique in that forgotten battle. And now, something else was coming through. From the vortex descended a single figure, humanoid but wrong, its proportions stretched and its movements jerky. It landed in the village square with an impact that cracked the stone beneath its feet. As the dust cleared, Menma felt recognition and dread simultaneously. The Crete, Ur resembled a man but stood over 7 feet tall, its skin ashen gray and marked with strange black symbols. Most disturbing were its eyes, ringed purple orbs that swept over the assembled humans with cold calculation. At last, it spoke, voice resonating unnaturally. The Jinchuriki. The word struck Menma like a physical blow. Memories cascaded through his mind. A 9-tailed fox, a painful childhood. The weight of being a living prison for a monster. And a name, his true name. Naruto, he whispered. I was Uzumaki Naruto. The creature smiled, revealing 2 sharp teeth. The vessel remembers. Good. That will make reclaiming the 9 tails chakra more satisfying. Nami moved closer to Menma, her stance protective despite clearly being outmatched. What is that thing? What's a Jinchuriki? A remnant? Menma, no. Naruto replied, his voice steadier than he felt. Something that shouldn't have followed me here. The creature laughed, the sound like breaking glass. The great hero, reduced to confusion and amnesia. How pathetic. It raised a gray hand, black energy swirling around its fingers. This world has weakened you, Naruto Uzumaki. You are not even aware of what you truly are anymore. Marines, cipher pull agents, and villagers alike backed away as the creature's power manifested, a dark, corrupting energy unlike Menma's vibrant chakra. I know enough, Menma replied, or on. GE energy beginning to envelop him like a protective cloak. I know I stopped you before, whatever you are. I am Otsutsuki, the creature declared. A fragment of power you thought destroyed. But Akra never truly dies, it merely changes form. When you tore reality to seal away Madara, you created a path I could follow. The name, Madara, triggered more memories, a masked man, global illusions, a plan to enslave humanity. Menma's fists clenched as his purpose crystallized. Then I'll have to finish the job. He turned to Nami. Get everyone back. This isn't your fight. Like hell it's not, she retorted. Though fear was evident in her eyes. If that thing followed you here, it's threatening my world now too. Hinode stepped forward, his katana drawn. Whatever quarrel exists between you two, civilian safety is my priority. He barked orders to his marines, who began evacuating people from the immediate area. The cipher pull leader adjusted his glasses. Otsutsuki entity confirmed. Containment protocol authorized. He signaled to his agents, who formed a perimeter despite their earlier aggression toward Menma. The Otsutsuki fragment seemed amused by their preparations. Insects arranging themselves for slaughter. It moved with blinding speed, appearing beside the nearest cipher pull agent and touching him with one gray finger. The agent's body convulsed, skin graying as the creature's energy invaded him. Within seconds, he transformed into a smaller version of the Otsutsuki, eyes blazing purple. A useful ability in this new world, the creature observed. Your bodies accept chakra corruption so easily. Menma didn't wait for more demonstrations. Channeling chakra to levels that made the air around him shimmer with heat, he launched forward with a Rasengan twice the size of his previous attempts. The spiraling sphere collided with the creature, driving it back through a building and into the jungle beyond. Everyone get to the ships, he shouted. This island isn't safe. The Otsutsuki emerged from the rubble, its form slightly damaged but regenerating visibly. The 9 tails power is still impressive, even diluted as it is now. But without your memories, you cannot access your true strength. It was right, Menma realized. His techniques came automatically, but the deeper power he sensed within himself, the legacy of Kurama, remained largely untapped due to his fragmented memories. As if reading his thoughts, Nami suddenly grabbed his arm. Sometimes navigators need to induce a current to change a ship's course, she said urgently. Maybe you need a shock to fully awaken. Before he could ask what she meant, she pulled him into a brief but intense kiss. The unexpected contact sent a jolt through Menma's system, not romance, but the pure emotional shock. Of human connection after the isolation of amnesia. The crystal around his neck pulsed with brilliant light as chakra surged through his network. Within his mental landscape, the empty chamber flooded with golden energy. And for just a moment, he felt the echo of a familiar presence. Kit, a gruff voice seemed to whisper. Remember who you are. When Menma opened his eyes, they had changed, slit. Ted pupils surrounded by orange-red irises against black sclera. The whisker marks on his cheeks deepened, and his canine teeth elongated slightly. Golden chakra enveloped him completely, forming what appeared to be a translucent fox shape around his body. That, he said, his voice overlaid with a deeper resonance, was unexpected. He smiled at Nami. But effective. Thank you. The navigator stepped back, eyes wide. You're welcome. Now go kick its ass. The Otsutsuki fragment hissed at his transformation. Impossible. The tailed beast was consumed in your transition. Not consumed, Menma corrected, understanding flowing back. Integrated. Kurama gave his consciousness so his power would survive with me. The creature attacked with renewed desperation, black chakra spears materializing. And launching toward not just Menma but everyone nearby. With his enhanced speed, Menma intercepted each one, his golden chakra neutralizing their corruption on contact. The battle escalated as both combatants unleashed increasingly destructive techniques. The Otsutsuki raised earth pillars with black markings that sapped chakra on contact. Menma countered with wind blades that sliced through stone and corrupted flesh alike. Throughout the conflict, Menma was acutely aware of the others, Nami coordinating with Hinode to evacuate villagers, Cypher Pole agents collecting data even as they retreated. Tora leading children to the relative safety of the harbor. This wasn't just about his past anymore, it was about protecting the present. The turning point came when the Otsutsuki, growing desperate, attempted to open another vortex above the island. If I cannot defeat you alone, perhaps reinforcements will suffice. The sky began to tear again, the pressure intensifying as reality strained. Menma realized that another breach could bring more fragments through, or worse, destabilize this world's fabric entirely. Drawing on Kurama's integrated chakra, he formed a new technique, a recentricon infused with golden energy. This ends here, he declared, the spinning disk of pure chakra growing above his palm. The Otsutsuki abandoned its attempt to create a portal, focusing instead on defense. Black chakra coalesced into a shield before it. Menma threw the recentricon with perfect accuracy. When it struck the shield, instead of exploding immediately, it drilled through the competing energies, creating a localized storm of power. The Otsutsuki fought to maintain its defense, but the golden chakra systematically dismantled its corruption. Impossible, it gasped as the shield failed, and the recentricon made contact with its chest. You cannot. The technique expanded, enveloping the creature in a perfect sphere of microscopic chakra blades that severed not just physical form but the very chakra network itself. When the light faded, nothing remained but purified dust that scattered in the wind. Menma fell to one knee, the golden chakra receding as exhaustion hit. His appearance returned to normal, though the whisker marks remained more pronounced than before. Nami reached him first, supporting his weight as he struggled to stand. That was impressive. Doesn't begin to cover it. He managed a tired smile. I remember now, not everything, but enough. My name really is Naruto Uzumaki. I was a shinobi from a place called Konoha. During a war, I used a sealing technique. That apparently tore a hole between dimensions. And you ended up here, she finished. With that thing following you. A fragment of the enemy I was fighting, he confirmed. There might be more. Captain Hinode approached cautiously, his uniform singed but his bearing still formal. What I just witnessed exceeds any known devil fruit ability. The world government will have questions. Which is why we should leave immediately. Nami interjected. Unless you're planning to arrest the person who just saved this entire island. The captain's gaze moved between them, then to the villagers gathering at a safe distance. After a moment, he sheathed his sword. My report will state that an unknown entity attacked Shellfish Island and was repelled by combined efforts of local defenders. Details remain unclear due to atmospheric interference. Menma blinked in surprise. You're letting us go. For now, Hinode said firmly. Justice sometimes requires looking beyond immediate orders to greater principles. But do not mistake this for permanent amnesty, Uzumaki D. Menma, or whatever your true name is. The Cypher Pole agents had already retreated, likely to report directly to their superiors. Their leader gave Menma one last assessing look before disappearing into the jungle, leaving an unspoken promise of future encounters. As the Marines helped villagers and tended to the injured, Tora approached Menma and Nami. The damage can be repaired, the elder said, but I fear you've brought greater attention to our humble island than we've seen in generations. I'm sorry, Menma said genuinely. I didn't ask for any of this. Tora smiled gently. Few of us ask for our destinies, young man. We merely rise to meet them when they arrive. He looked to Nami. The Straw Hats have a reputation for leaving chaos in their wake, but also for standing against greater evils. Perhaps you've found an appropriate companion. Nami grinned. He's certainly qualified in the chaos department. With the immediate danger past, they focused on repairs to Nami's boat. Menma's shadow clones accelerated the work considerably, and by the following morning, the vessel was seaworthy again with Emperor Ovman's courtesy of local shipwrights grateful for his protection. As they prepared to depart, Menma stood at the bow, watching dawn break over the ocean. His memories continued to settle into place, not all returned, but enough to understand who he had been and who he might become in this new world. Nami joined him, studying her log pose. The needle's stable now, pointing toward Horizon Point. We should reach the rendezvous in 2 days with favorable winds. And then, Menma asked. She glanced at him. Then you meet Luffy and the others. After that, she shrugged. The Grand Line is full of mysteries, including whatever connection exists between your chakra and this world's ancient weapons. The Otsutsuki fragment mentioned, subject Tempest. The Cipher Pole agents recognized that designation, which means the world government knows something about interdimensional travelers, Nami concluded. Another mystery to solve. She adjusted the sails as they pulled away from the dock. How much of your power has returned? Menma formed a small Rasengan, studying its swirling pattern. Most of my basic techniques. Some of Kurama's power, but I sense there's more locked away still. Well, Nami said with a confident smile. You'll have plenty of opportunities to rediscover it. The Grand Line isn't exactly known for peaceful sailing. As Shellfish Island receded behind them, Menma felt a curious mixture of loss and anticipation. He had left one world behind, a world of shinobi and familiar bonds, but found himself in another filled with new possibilities. The crystal around his neck pulsed warmly, as if in agreement. Whatever awaited him, Marines, world government secrets, or more fragments of his past enemies, he would face it with the same determination that had defined Naruto Uzumaki. And he wouldn't face it alone. Chapter 1 End. Chapter 2. The navigator's dilemma. Dawn's light danced across the water as their small craft cut through the waves. Menma sat cross-legged at the bow, eyes closed in meditation. 3 days had passed since their departure from Shellfish Island, and each sunrise brought more fragments of memory floating to the surface of his consciousness. Nami studied him from her position at the tiller, orange hair whipping in the salt breeze. She'd grown accustomed to these morning sessions, his stillness, the faint orange glow that occasionally outlined his body. The way his whisker marks seemed to deepen when he channeled what he called chakra. You're staring again, he said without opening his eyes. Professional interest, Nami replied smoothly. Your energy affects the local atmosphere. The air pressure changes when you do your, whatever that is. One blue eye cracked open. Weather navigation, among other things. She adjusted their course slightly, reading the currents with instinctive precision. We're making good time. Another day to Horizon Point if this wind holds. Menma unfolded from his meditation, stretching with cat-like grace. The movement rippled muscles under his borrowed clothes, a sleeveless black vest over a mesh shirt, both obtained from Shellfish Island. The outfit wasn't his preference, he'd said, too lacking in orange. But it would serve until he found something more suitable. Any sign of pursuit? He asked. Nami shook her head. Nothing since that Marine scout ship yesterday, and they didn't change course to follow us. Her fingers tapped the navigational charts spread before her. But that doesn't mean we're clear. The Grand Line is never that simple. You mentioned something about a calm belt. Stretches of ocean with no wind, filled with sea kings. Most ships get stranded there and become monster food. Nami's expression grew thoughtful. Though your water-walking ability could prove useful if we get caught in one. Menma joined her at the maps, studying the complex charts with their magnetic readings and weather patterns unlike anything from his world. So, tell me about these friends we're meeting. Your captain, Luffy. A fond smile touched Nami's lips. Monkey D. Luffy. The man who will become king of the pirates. She said it with absolute conviction. He's unlike anyone you've ever met. Completely unpredictable, occasionally brilliant, always ridiculous. Sounds like someone I used to know, Menma murmured, a flash of a dark-haired boy in blue crossing his memory. Then there's Zoro, our swordsman. Carries 3 katana, 1 in his mouth. She laughed at Menma's expression. I know, it sounds impossible, but wait until you see him fight. Sanji's our cook, makes the best food in any ocean. But don't get him started on women. Usopp's our sharpshooter and liar extraordinaire. Chopper's a reindeer who ate a human fruit and became our doctor. Frankie's our cyborg shipwright. Wait, cyborg. Half man, half machine. Built himself after an accident. Nami continued as if this were perfectly normal. Robin you'll like. She's our archaeologist, brilliant and mysterious. And Brooks our musician, a living skeleton with an afro. Menma blinked slowly. A skeleton, with an afro. Soul fruit. Allows his soul to return to his body, except his body was just bones by then. Nami shrugged. Told you the grand line was weird. And I thought summoning giant toads was unusual, Menma muttered. What was that? Nothing. He smiled, the expression transfo. RMING his face from serious to boyishly charming. Your crew sounds colorful. That's one word for it. Nami's expression softened. But they're family. We've been through hell together, more than once. The sincerity in her voice touched something in Menma, memories of his own team, his own precious people. The weight of those lost connections pressed against his heart. What about you? He asked after a moment. How did a master navigator end up with a rubber captain? Nami's eyes darkened slightly. That's a long story. The short version is that Luffy saved me when no one else could. Or would. She adjusted their heading with unnecessary precision. I was trapped in a bad situation. He fought for my freedom before he even really knew me. Menma nodded, understanding the unspoken depth. The best captains are like that. The moment of connection hung between them, interrupted when Nami abruptly stood. Storm coming, she announced, eyes fixed on a distant point where blue sky met darker clouds. Not natural. The barometric pressure dropped too quickly. Menma followed her gaze. How bad? Bad enough. She was already securing their supplies, movements quick and practiced. We need to reef the sail and secure everything below. This area is known for sudden cyclones that can flip ships twice our size. They worked in tandem, Menma following her expert instructions. The efficiency of their partnership surprised him, as if they'd sailed together for years rather than days. When Nami called for a rope to be secured or a hatch battened, he was already moving to comply. Ninja reflexes complementing her nautical expertise. Within minutes, dark clouds engulfed them. The sea, calm moments before, began to heave. Rain lashed down in stinging sheets as wind howled through the rigging. Hold the tiller, Nami shouted over the gale, passing him the ship's control while she adjusted their heading by instinct and the glowing needle of her log pose. We need to ride the edge of the current. Menma braced himself, channeling chakra to his feet to maintain his footing on the slippery deck. The small craft pitched violently, waves crashing over the bow. Through the chaos, he watched Nami work, her face set in fierce concentration, orange hair plastered to her skin, every movement confident despite the danger. A massive wave rose before them, towering like a liquid mountain. We can't crest that, Menma called. We're not going over, Nami replied, eyes narrowed against the spray. We're going through. When I say now, push as much of your wind power into the sail as you can. The wave loomed larger, blocking out what little light remained. Menma prepared his jutsu, wind chakra gathering around his hands. Now, wind style. Great breakthrough. A controlled gale erupted from his palms, filling their reduced sail with impossible force. The boat shot forward like an arrow, directly toward the wall of water. At the last moment, Nami wrenched the tiller, ing them toward a barely perceptible discoloration in the wave, a current within the current. Their vessel knifed into the wave rather than fighting it, the conflicting water flows creating a momentary tunnel. For 3 breathless seconds, they were surrounded by water on all sides. Then they burst through, the wave collapsing behind them as they emerged into the storm's eye, a circle of relative calm surrounded by raging tempest. That was. Menma searched for words. Navigation. Nami finished with a breathless grin, pushing soaked hair from her face. Though your wind jutsu certainly helped. We'd have been swamped without that extra speed. The eye of the storm provided a temporary respite. Above them, a circle of clear sky revealed stars, incongruously peaceful amid the surrounding chaos. The edge of the cyclone formed walls of cloud and water around them, a natural arena perhaps a mile across. How long will this calm last? Menma asked, helping Nami wring water from the maps she'd protected under her shirt. Not long. Maybe 15 minutes before. She froze, eyes fixed on something behind him. We're not alone. Menma turned to see a dark shape cutting through the water toward them, a massive vessel with black sails emerging from the storm wall. The tattered Jolly Roger at its mast left no doubt about its nature. Pirates, he observed. Friends of yours. Not even close. Nami's voice dropped to a tense whisper. That's the Obsidian Shark, Captain Razorback's crew. They hunt smaller ships caught in storms like carrion birds. The pirate vessel drew closer, easily 3 times the size of their craft. Rough voices carried across the water, along with the distinctive sound of weapons being readied. Looks like we found dinner, boys. Came a booming call. A little fish and her pretty companion. Menma's expression hardened. Options. We can't outrun them in this, Nami said, mind racing. Not with the storm surrounding us. And once the eye passes. She left the implication hanging. So we fight. Menma rolled his shoulders, chakra already beginning to shimmer around his hands. Against a crew of 30. That's suicide. A grin spread across his face, revealing slightly pointed canines. 30 isn't nearly enough. His hands formed the now familiar sign. Shadow Clone Jutsu. With multiple pops of displaced air, 10 perfect copies of Menma appeared on their small deck. Each solid and ready for action. Nami blinked. I'm still not used to that. Neither are they, one of the Menmas replied, nodding toward the pirate ship where several crew members had backed away from the rails in surprise. The original Menma turned to Nami. Stay here. My clones and I will handle this. Like hell, she retorted, extending her staff with a click. This is my ship, and those are my waters they're trespassing in. Before he could argue, Nami swung her staff in a precise arc. The air around the weapon's tip shimmered as she murmured, "Weather egg." A small bubble of condensed air shot toward the pirate vessel, expanding just before impact into a localized thundercloud. Lightning crashed down onto the Obsidian Shark's deck, scattering pirates with cries of alarm. Menma stared at her. That was climate science, Nami replied with a wink. My own version of jutsu. A challenge roared across the water as the pirates recovered from their shock. Captain Razorback himself appeared at the rail, a massive man with a protruding lower jaw and arms covered in elaborate tattoos. Which, he bellowed, I'll wear your skin as a coat. Charming, Nami muttered. The pirate ship maneuvered alongside their smaller craft, grappling hooks flying over to secure the vessels together. Menma's clones intercepted most, but several caught, drawing the boats inexorably closer. Hold on to something, Menma advised, his hands already forming seals. As pirates prepared to board, Menma unleashed a water jutsu, not to attack, but to create a massive wave between ships that momentarily pushed them apart. In that instant, his clones leapt across the gap, landing on the Obsidian Shark's deck in perfect formation. The battle erupted in earnest. Pirates swung cutlasses and fired pistols. But the clones moved with inhuman speed, disarming opponents with precise strikes. The original Menma stayed beside Nami, deflecting any pirates who managed to jump to their ship. Impressive, Nami commented, using her staff to knock a boarding pirate back into the sea. But they outnumber even your clones. Quality over quantity, Menma replied, casually catching a thrown knife between 2 fingers. Besides, I'm not trying to defeat them all. Then what? A commotion interrupted her question as Menma's clones converged on the pirate captain. Razorback proved surprisingly agile for his size, wielding a massive anchor-tipped chain that kept the clones at bay. 2 clones dispelled in puffs of smoke when the anchor caught them squarely. I'll handle the captain, Menma decided. Cover me, Nami nodded, already forming another weather technique with her staff. Go, I've got this. With a chakra-enhanced leap, Menma crossed the gap between ships, landing in a crouch on the Obsidian Shark's deck. The remaining pirates backed away, forming a rough circle around him and their captain. You're an interesting one, Razorback growled, sizing Menma up. Devil fruit user. Making copies of yourself. No matter. Sea stone shackles break all devil powers. Menma straightened, blue eyes calm. I told your men on Shellfish Island, I don't use devil fruit powers. Rico. Nishan flickered in Razorback's piggy eyes. You're the one who humiliated Kurohige. Good. I've been wanting to claim that bounty myself. The captain attacked with surprising speed, his chain whirling in lethal arcs. Menma dodged with minimal movement, studying his opponent's style. The chakra flowing through his system enhanced his perception, making the captain's attacks seem almost sluggish. Stand still, damn you. Razorback bellowed after a minute of futile attacks. If you insist. Menma stopped dodging, instead catching the anchor chain bare-handed on its next pass. The impact should have shattered his arm, instead. Orange chakra cushioned the blow. With a sharp tug, Menma pulled the captain off balance, then delivered a palm strike to his solar plexus. Razorback flew backward, ashing into the ship's mast with enough force to crack the thick wood. The pirate crew stared in shock. Their captain, known for overwhelming strength, had been handled like a child's toy. Razorback struggled to his feet, blood trickling from his mouth. What are you? Someone who dislikes bullies, Menma replied simply. He formed a Rasengan in his right hand, the swirling ball of chakra, illuminating the rain-slicked deck with blue light. Surrender your ship and leave this area. Now. Instead of answering, Razorback reached inside his coat and withdrew a strange pistol, its barrel glowing with an unnatural purple light. Eat this, freak, he snarled, firing. Menma started to dodge, but the projectile moved faster than he anticipated. Just before impact, he substituted with a nearby barrel, the jutsu automatic. The purple energy bolt struck the barrel, which didn't explode as expected. Instead, it seemed to collapse in on itself, wood splintering inward before vanishing entirely. See Prism technology. Razorback grinned, revealing pointed teeth. Government experimental weapons. Disrupts all energy, even your fancy light show. Menma's eyes narrowed. The weapon was dangerous, not just to him, but to everyone if it could negate matter itself. Before Razorback could fire again, Menma blurred forward, the Rasengan still spinning in his palm. Rasengan. The spiraling sphere struck Razorback's chest, grinding against his body before sending him flying through the ship's rail and into the churning sea beyond. The strange pistol flew from his grasp, clattering across the deck. A stunned silence fell over the pirate crew. Their captain's defeat had been total and decisive. One brave pirate stepped forward, curved sword shaking in his grip. We'll still gut you and his threat died as thunder cracked overhead. The localized storm Nami had created intensified, lightning striking the deck in strategic locations that separated the pirates from Menma without causing lethal damage. Anyone else feeling brave? Nami called from their vessel, her staff crackling with electrical energy. The fight drained from the pirates as their captain failed to resurface. Menma collected the strange weapon carefully, wrapping it in cloth before securing it inside his vest. This ship is now mine, he declared, voice carrying with authoritative calm. If any of you wish to stay aboard under new rules, you may. The rest can take the lifeboats. A murmur ran through the crew. One older pirate with a graying beard stepped forward. We've no love for Razorback, he said cautiously. Man was cruel even by pirate standards. But what's to stop you from being worse? Menma considered the question seriously. I give you my word that I won't harm anyone who doesn't threaten others. Beyond that, you're free to decide your own fates. The old pirate studied him, then nodded slowly. I've seen enough of the sea to know when the tide's turned. Some might stay, given fair terms. RS won't serve any captain but their own. Within the hour, arrangements were made. Half the crew chose to depart in longboats, heading toward a speck of land visible at the edge of the storm's eye. The rest, mostly younger pirates who had joined Razorback's crew out of necessity rather than loyalty, agreed to stay and see what kind of Captain Menma might be. Nami boarded the Obsidian Shark, examining it with a critical navigator's eye. Not a bad ship, she admitted. Fast, well-armed, could use some modifications, but serviceable. Menma stood at the helm, feeling strangely at home. I didn't plan on becoming a pirate captain today. Welcome to the Grand Line, Nami chuckled. Plans rarely survive first contact with these waters. She studied the remaining crew members, who watched them warily. What now, Captain Uzumaki? The title felt wrong and right simultaneously. Menma shook his head. I'm not looking to build a pirate empire. But having a proper ship will help us reach Horizon Point. And we can decide our next move from there. As if on cue, the eye of the storm began to contract. The wall of wind and water closed in around them. Secure everything, Nami commanded, falling naturally into her navigator role. Both crews, the remaining Obsidian Shark pirates and Menma's shadow clones, scrambled to obey. With Nami's expertise guiding them and Menma's clones providing impossible manpower, they navigated through the remainder of the cyclone with minimal damage. By dawn, they emerged into calm seas, the storm dissipating behind them like a bad dream. Menma dismissed his remaining clones, absorbing their experiences and knowledge. The mental fatigue of maintaining so many for hours struck him, but he remained standing, unwilling to show weakness before the new crew. Nami noticed anyway, appearing at his side with a water flask. You should rest, she said quietly. I can handle things here. I'm fine, he insisted, though gratefully accepting the water. Stubborn, she muttered. Then louder to the crew. Set course northeast. Steady as she goes. Over the next day, they settled into a rhythm. The remaining pirates, 11 in total, proved competent sailors once freed from Razorback's brutal command. Menma learned their names and stories, treating them with respect that clearly surprised them. In return, they began to exhibit cautious loyalty. Nami spent hours in what had been Razorback's cabin, now converted to a navigation room. She pored over the maps and logbooks they'd found, occasionally emerging to adjust their course or issue sailing orders that the crew hastened to obey. Find anything interesting? Menma asked that evening, bringing her dinner from the galley. She looked up from a particularly ancient-looking chart, eyes bright with excitement. Several things. First, we're closer to Horizon Point than I thought. We should arrive by midday tomorrow. And second, Nami hesitated, glancing at the closed door before continuing in a lower voice. Razorback was working for someone. These aren't normal pirate logs. They contain specific search parameters for certain islands, particular artifacts. She pointed to a section of encoded text she'd partially translated. He was looking for something called chakra monuments, ancient stones that supposedly contain energy similar to what you use. Menma leaned closer, studying the faded writing. Who was he working for? That's the interesting part. The logs mention a special scientific research division, and something called Project Ripple. She met his eyes. I think it's connected to those cipher pull agents who called you, Subject Tempest. A chill ran down Menma's spine. Whatever had brought him to this world wasn't random chance. Powerful forces had been expecting something like his arrival. Perhaps even monitoring for it. There's more, Nami continued, unfolding a newer map. According to this, there's a marine research outpost near Horizon Point. If we want answers about these chakra monuments, and your connection to them, we'd need to infiltrate a marine base, Menma finished. Risky. Nami's smile turned mischievous. Risk is what we straw hats do best. Besides, with your abilities and my experience sneaking into places I shouldn't be, we make a formidable team. The confidence in her assessment warmed something in Menma's chest. You trust me that much already. You jumped into battle against pirates for a village you'd just met, then faced down some interdimensional monster to protect complete strangers, she replied simply. Trust is earned through actions, not time. Those words resonated with memories of his past, of hard-won friendships forged in combat and sacrifice. Before he could respond, a shout came from the crow's nest. Ship sighted. Marine colors. They hurried to the deck, Nami grabbing a spyglass from a hook by the door. Through it, she observed a sleek marine vessel paralleling their course at a distance. Scout ship, she identified. Probably monitoring regular shipping lanes. Menma studied the white-sailed vessel. Have they spotted us? Definitely. But they're keeping their distance. Probably reporting our position rather than engaging directly. She lowered the spyglass, thinking rapidly. We should change course. Head southwest temporarily to make them think we're avoiding Horizon Point. Won't that delay our arrival? By a few hours. But better that than having Marines waiting for us. Nami issued quick orders to the crew, who adjusted sails and heading with practiced efficiency. As predicted, the Marine ship maintained its distance but altered course to continue shadowing them. By nightfall, Menma could still make out its lanterns on the horizon. Persistent, he observed, joining Nami at the stern rail. They recognized the obsidian shark, she explained. Razorback had a reputation for violence. They're probably waiting to see what port we make for so they can alert local authorities. Under cover of darkness, Nami executed the next phase of her plan. They doused all lights aboard the obsidian shark and dramatically altered course, using the night wind to carry them back toward their original destination while the marine vessel continued following their previous heading. By morning, they had lost their tail and were approaching Horizon Point from the northwest, an unexpected angle that Nami assured would further confuse any pursuit. The island came into view around midday, a striking formation with one half covered in lush forest and the other dominated by a towering stone spire that gave the island its name. Near the spire's base, a small port town huddled against the rocky shore. Rendezvous point is on the forest side, Nami explained as they kept a cautious distance. But first, we should investigate that marine outpost. She pointed to a small complex of white buildings nestled in a cove on the island's southern edge, partially hidden by the curving shoreline. Doesn't look heavily guarded, Menma observed through the spyglass. Research facility, not a combat base. Minimum security, maximum secrets. Nami grinned. My favorite combination. They anchored the obsidian shark in a hidden inlet, concealed by overhanging trees and rock formations, leaving the ship under the first mate's command with instructions to maintain position for 24 hours before proceeding to the main harbor. Menma and Nami prepared for their infiltration. Nami changed into dark, form-fitting clothes that prioritized movement over protection. From a locked chest in her cabin, she withdrew a collection of tools that would make any thief proud: lockpicks, glass cutters, signal jammers. Professional equipment, Menma noted with raised eyebrows. I wasn't always a pirate navigator, she replied cryptically. Let's just say I acquired certain skills out of necessity. Menma opted for stealth as well, darkening his whisker marks with ash and securing his headband to conceal his distinctive blonde hair. The shadow of a memory tugged at him. Another infiltration, another life, moving through a darkened compound with teammates at his side. They approached the marine facility by water, Menma using his chakra control to walk across the surface while carrying Nami piggyback. The sensation of her arms around his neck and her breath against his ear proved more distracting than he cared to admit. Guards patrol every 15 minutes, Nami whispered as they crouched behind a rocky outcrop near the compound's perimeter. 2 at the main gate, probably more inside. Security cameras on all corners. I can handle the cameras, Menma replied, forming hand signs. Transformation jutsu. In a puff of smoke, he transformed into a seagull, a perfect copy, down to the feathers. Nami stared, open-mouthed. That's not an illusion, she realized. You actually changed shape. The seagull nodded before taking flight. It circled the compound twice before landing on each camera in succession, using its beak to subtly adjust their angles away from certain approach vectors. When Menma returned and released the transformation, Nami was shaking her head in amazement. Devil fruits can grant animal transformation, but only one specific animal per fruit. You just became whatever you wanted. Chakra is versatile, Menma explained with a hint of pride. Basic transformation is academy-level jutsu where I'm from. Academy level, she repeated. Remind me to visit your world someday. With the cameras redirected, they approached the facility's eastern wall, which faced the ocean and had fewer windows. Using chakra to enhance his strength, Menma lifted Nami to a second-floor window that she quickly and silently unlocked with her specialized tools. Inside, they found themselves in a darkened laboratory. Equipment lined the walls: microscopes, centrifuges, and other devices Menma didn't recognize. The central feature was a large examination table with restraints, surrounded by monitoring equipment. Cheerful place, Nami muttered, eyeing the restraints with distaste. Menma moved to a computer terminal while Nami began photographing documents with a small camera she'd brought. The terminal required a password, but a quick transformation into a lab-coated researcher they'd observed entering earlier gave Menma access to the fingerprint scanner. Clever, Nami approved, joining him at the screen. Can you access their research database? Working on it, Menma navigated through the system with surprising ease, as if the knowledge of how to use this technology had been dormant in his mind until needed. Here, project files. They scrolled through document headings until one caught their attention. Subject Tempest Analysis, Chakra Integration Theories. That's it, Nami whispered. Open that one. The file contained technical language beyond Menma's understanding, but certain phrases jumped out. Dimensional breach detected 17 months ago in Sector 47B. Quote. Energy signature consistent with theoretical chakra, described in ancient texts. Subject believed to have crossed dimensional boundaries, possibly carrying bloodline abilities unknown to our world. Attached to the document were blurry images captured during what appeared to be a massive storm, a vortex in the sky with a humanoid figure at its center. That's not me, Menma realized, studying the silhouette. The proportions are wrong. Someone else came through before I did. Nami frowned. Another ninja from your world. Possibly. Or, a dark thought occurred to him. What if it's another fragment of the enemy I was fighting? The Otsutsuki creature mentioned Madara. He was powerful enough to attempt dimensional travel. Before they could discuss further, a file, labeled Chakra Monument Locations, caught their attention. Opening it revealed a map of the Grand Line with several islands marked in red, including Horizon Point itself. According to this, Nami said, quickly memorizing the locations. There are 7 known monuments. They're studying one here on this island. Menma downloaded as much information as they could onto a storage device Nami provided. Then carefully logged out of the system. They were preparing to leave when voices approached from the hallway. Latest readings from the stone are off the charts. Dr. Vegapunk wants hourly updates. At this rate, we'll need to move it to a more secure facility. The energy signatures becoming detectable even without specialized equipment. 2 researchers entered the lab, freezing at the sight of the intruders. Before they could raise an alarm, Menma moved, faster than human eyes could track. Both men slumped unconscious before their brains registered what had happened. We need to find that monument, Menma said, lowering the researchers carefully to the floor. Before they move it, Nami nodded, already checking the scientists' keycards and access badges. According to the facility schematic I saw on the computer, there's a secure storage area in the basement level. That's our best bet. Using the researchers' credentials, they navigated deeper into the facility. The few Marines they encountered were easily avoided or, when necessary, quietly incapacitated by Menma's precise strikes. The basement level proved more heavily secured, a reinforced door with both electronic locks and a physical tumbler system. Nami tackled the mechanical lock while Menma used the stolen access card on the electronic panel. Almost. Got it, Nami whispered, her lockpicks moving with delicate precision. The final tumbler clicked into place just as the card reader flashed green. Beyond the door lay a climate-controlled chamber dominated by a single artifact on a raised platform. The monument stood perhaps 5 feet tall, rough-hewn except for one polished face covered in strange symbols that looked similar to kanji but unlike any writing system Menma recognized. Most striking, however, was the energy emanating from it, a soft blue glow that pulsed like a heartbeat. It's reacting to your presence, Nami observed as the pulsing increased in tempo when Menma approached. He reached out hesitantly, fingers hovering near the stone's surface. It feels familiar somehow. Like chakra, but more ancient. When his fingers made contact, the effect was immediate and dramatic. The symbols blazed with brilliant light, and Menma gasped as foreign sensations flooded his system, knowledge, power, and recognition flowing into him from the stone. Visions flashed through his mind. A great tree absorbing energy from all living things, beings of immense power crossing between dimensions, a shattered moon raining destruction, and finally, a network of stones like this one, creating a web of energy across an ancient world. Menma. Nami's voice seemed distant. Menma, snap out of it. He wrenched his hand away, stumbling backward. The stone's glow dimmed but didn't fade entirely. What happened? You went rigid. And your eyes. Nami's concern was evident in her voice. The stone, Menma managed, his voice hoarse. It's not just a monument. It's a node in a network, created by. Why people from my world are somewhere connected to it. The symbols, They're an ancient form of writing used by chakra users who came here long ago. Can you read it? Menma turned back to the stone, the symbols now making a strange kind of sense. It says, the fruit of the great tree grants power but takes the sea. Only those of the flowing tide may walk both paths. The fruit of the great tree. Nami's eyes widened. Devil fruits. It's talking about devil fruits. And, those of the flowing tide, might mean chakra users, Menma added, the connection forming in his mind. The stone recognizes. My energy is something it was designed to respond to. An alarm suddenly blared throughout the facility, harsh and insistent. Our time's up, Nami said, grabbing Menma's arm. We need to go, now. Menma hesitated, looking back at the stone. We can't leave it. If the world government fully deciphers its meaning, they could gain power they don't understand. It weighs hundreds of pounds. We can't exactly carry it out. Instead of answering, Menma placed both palms against the monument, channeling chakra into it with focused intent. The stone responded, its glow intensifying until the symbols began to fade, not disappearing, but somehow transferring into Menma himself, lines of ancient text briefly appearing on his skin before sinking beneath the surface. When he stepped back, the monument appeared ordinary, just weathered rock with faint indentations where symbols had once been carved. What did you do? Nami asked, astonished. I'm not sure, Menma admitted, feeling new energy coursing through his chakra network. It was instinctive, like the stone wanted me to absorb its knowledge. They had no time for further discussion. Marine boots pounded down the corridor toward them, accompanied by shouted orders. This way, Nami urged, pulling him toward a small ventilation grate she'd already begun unfastening. Maintenance tunnel leads to the water treatment system and then the ocean. The narrow passage barely accommodated them, forcing them to crawl in single file through dusty darkness. Behind them, the sounds of Marines discovering the empty monument echoed with confused anger. After what felt like an eternity of confined spaces and awkward crawling, they emerged onto a rocky shore 100 yards from the facility. Searchlights swept the perimeter as alarms continued to sound. We need to move quickly, Nami said, already scanning for patrol boats. Once they realize what's happened, they'll lock down the entire island. Menma nodded, but his attention was divided. Part of his consciousness processing the information from the monument, connections forming between his world and this one. Devil fruits, he said suddenly as they made their way along the shoreline. They're connected to chakra somehow. The monument suggested they're related to something called the Great Tree, which reminds me of stories from my world about the god tree that was the original source of all chakra. You think devil fruits and chakra have the same origin? Nami asked, keeping her voice low as they ducked behind rocks to avoid a passing searchlight. Maybe not the same, but connected. The price of devil fruit power is the inability to swim, to touch the sea. But chakra users don't have that limitation. Different manifestations of the same fundamental energy. Nami's analytical mind engaged despite their precarious situation. That would explain why the world government is so interested in Subject Tempest, and now you. If they could understand the connection, they could potentially find ways to grant devil fruit powers without the weakness, or develop new weapons based on chakra principles. Menma frowned at the implications. We definitely need to find the other monuments before they do. They reached their exfiltration point, a small tidal cave where they'd hidden a rowboat. As they prepared to cast off, Menma suddenly stiffened, senses alerting him to danger. We're not alone, he whispered, pushing Nami behind him protectively. From the shadows of the cave emerged a tall figure in a white marine coat, Captain Hinode, his katana already drawn and glowing faintly with haki. I thought I might find you here, Uzumaki, he said calmly. Or do you prefer Naruto now? Menma's eyes narrowed. You've been following us since Shellfish Island. Following, observing, learning. Hinode's gaze moved to Nami. The Straw Hat Navigator I expected, but you remain an enigma. One that increasingly concerns my superiors. Your superiors who experiment on ancient artifacts and track dimensional breaches. Nami challenged. Hinode's expression revealed nothing. I serve justice and order. Sometimes that requires understanding threats before they fully materialize. We're not the threat, Menma said, chakra beginning to flow through his system in preparation for combat. Whatever you think that monument was, there are forces at work beyond your government's understanding. Precisely why such research is necessary. Hinode shifted his stance subtly, a swordsman preparing to strike. I have orders to bring you in, Uzumaki. Both of you. The research division has questions. The confined space of the cave made combat dangerous, especially with Nami potentially caught in the crossfire. Menma assessed options rapidly, settling on diplomacy first. Captain, you struck me as a reasonable man on Shellfish Island. You saw what came through that vortex, the Otsutsuki fragment. There are worse things that could follow. All the more reason to secure your cooperation. The world government has resources, the same resources creating weapons like the one Razorback had. Menma interrupted. That doesn't instill confidence in their intentions. A flicker of surprise crossed Hinode's face. You encountered prototype weaponry, a gun that made matter collapse in on itself, Nami elaborated. Hardly defensive technology. Hinode's resolve seemed to waver momentarily. There are factions within the Marines and world government with different approaches. Not all of us approve of certain research directions. An opening. Menma pressed the advantage. Then help us. Let us go, and we'll share what we learn about these monuments and the dimensional threats. Information for information. A naive proposal. Why would I trust pirates? Because, Nami interjected, Luffy has never broken his word. Neither have I, and while you may not know Menma well, you've seen him fight to protect others without hesitation. A tense silence filled the cave, broken only by the distant sound of alarms and the gentle lapping of waves against stone. Finally, Hinode lowered his sword slightly. You have 24 hours. After that, I report everything I know about your activities and whereabouts. 48, Nami countered. The ghost of a smile touched Hinode's lips. 36, Navigator. Not a minute more. Menma nodded. Agreed. And Captain, the monument's knowledge is safer with me than in a government lab. Some powers aren't meant to be weaponized. A lesson many never learn, Hinode replied cryptically. He stepped aside, clearing their path to the rowboat. 36 hours, Uzumaki. Make them count. They didn't waste the opportunity, quickly launching the small craft and rowing out of the cave. Once beyond the immediate shoreline, Menma used water walking to pull the boat rapidly toward their hidden ship, chakra enhancing his speed and endurance. The Obsidian Shark's crew received them with relief, immediately preparing to sail at Nami's command. Within minutes, they were underway, slipping through darkness toward Horizon Point's main harbor on the opposite side of the island. In the navigation room, Nami updated their charts with the monument locations they'd discovered. 6 more islands, scattered across the Grand Line. Some in very dangerous waters. We should tell your captain everything, Menma suggested, still processing the monument's knowledge that swirled in his mind like a half-remembered dream. This affects more than just me now. Nami studied him across the table, her expression serious. You've changed since Shellfish Island. More confident, more present. Recovering my memories helps, he acknowledged. But also having a purpose. These monuments, the connection between our worlds, it feels important. Like something I was meant to discover. The will of D, Nami murmured. In this world, those who carry that initial often shape history itself. Menma touched the crystal around his neck thoughtfully. In my world, I had a purpose too, to protect my village, to bring peace. I don't know if I succeeded before coming here, but perhaps this is a continuation of that path. There. Conversation paused as the first mate knocked and entered. Navigator, we're approaching the harbor. Do we dock openly or maintain discretion? Nami considered briefly. Open approach, but keep alert. Fly no flags. We're merchants, not pirates, as far as anyone needs to know. As the man left to relay orders, Menma found himself admiring Nami's natural command presence, the way she assessed situate ions and made decisions without hesitation, balancing caution with necessary risk. What? She asked, noticing his gaze. Just thinking that your captain is fortunate to have you as his navigator. A light blush touched her cheeks. Flattery will get you nowhere, Shinobi. Not flattery. Observation. He smiled. In my fragmented memories, I was part of a team too. Each person had their strength, their role. Together, we were stronger than individually. That's the Straw Hat way too, Nami replied, her expression softening. Though I doubt your team was quite as chaotic as ours. Horizon Point. Cheese Harbor came into view, a crescent of wooden docks cradling dozens of ships of various sizes. Nami directed their approach expertly, securing a berth at the less regulated southern end where fewer questions would be asked. As they prepared to disembark, Menma paused on the gangplank. What about the Obsidian Shark? And its crew? Nami considered. They've served well these past days. If any wish to continue as legitimate sailors rather than pirates, I know shipping companies that might hire them. A mischievous smile crossed her face. Or they could join the growing Straw Hat Grand Fleet, all IED crews that sail under Luffy's ultimate banner while maintaining their independence. Legitimate sailors, Menma decided. I'm not looking to build a pirate empire. Spoken like someone who's never met Luffy, Nami laughed. Empires have a way of forming around him whether he wants them or not. The town of Horizon Point proved to be a bustling trade port with the casual lawlessness common to Grand Line settlements, not outright anarchic, but with authority exercised primarily through bribes and influence rather than official channels. Nami navigated the crowded streets with practiced ease, occasionally checking her Vivre card, a special paper that would lead her to her captain. The card pulled steadily toward the island's forested half. They're camped in the jungle, she explained. Typical Luffy, avoiding civilization when there might be an adventure in the wilderness. As they walked, Menma became aware of eyes following them, not just the casual glances newcomers always attracted, but focused observation from shadowed doorways and rooftop perches. We're being watched, he murmured, matching Nami's pace but remaining alert. Marines, bounty hunters, neither. These observers are too patient, professional. Nami's hand drifted to her staff. Cipher pull agents, possibly. Menma created a shadow clone with subtle hand movements, the duplicate slipping away into an ala. Why without their followers noticing the substitution? My clone will circle around and identify them. They continued through the market district, Nami occasionally stopping to purchase supplies, food, medical items, and new clothes for Menma that better fit his preference for orange. Throughout, the watchers maintained their distance, never directly interfering but never losing sight of them either. The clone's memories returned to Menma when it deliberately dispelled half an hour later. Definitely Cipher Pole, he confirmed quietly. 4 agents, coordinating with hand signals. They're herding us. Toward what? That's the concerning part. They seem to be guiding us toward the forest, exactly where we're heading anyway. Nami frowned. A trap at the rendezvous point. But how would they know where we're meeting the others? The answer presented itself as they reached the town's edge, where forest paths began. A small tea shop overlooked the junction of several trails, and seated at an outdoor table was a familiar figure, the Cipher Pole leader from Shellfish Island, rectangular glasses glinting in the afternoon sun. Observational hockey, Nami whispered. Some high-ranking agents can sense individuals across significant distances. They probably tracked Luffy's arrival and suspected I'd head directly for him. The agent made no move to intercept them, merely sipping his tea while maintaining eye contact with Menma. The message was clear. We know where you're going, and we're allowing it for now. Options? Menma asked, prepared for combat if necessary. Nami thought quickly. We continue as planned. If they wanted to capture us, they would have moved already. They're gathering intelligence, which means they're uncertain about something. About me, most likely. About what I learned from the monument. Then let's not give them any more information than necessary. Nami adjusted their course slightly, taking a less direct path into the forest. We'll circle around, use the trees for cover. Can you sense my crewmates if we get close? Menma nodded. My sensory abilities are returning. If they have distinctive chakra, or whatever the equivalent is here, I should be able to locate them within a certain radius. They entered the forest, immediately utilizing the dense undergrowth for concealment. Menma proved adept at moving silently, occasionally helping Nami navigate particularly challenging terrain. Within minutes, they had lost their visible pursuers, though Menma remained certain they were being tracked through other means. The jungle thickened as they progressed, massive trees forming a canopy that blocked much of the sunlight. Animal calls echoed around them, some recognizable, others distinctly alien to Menma's ears. This forest feels alive, he observed. More aware than normal vegetation. Grand Line ecosystems often develop unusual properties, Nami explained. This island is known for its semi-sentient plant life. Nothing overtly dangerous, the trees sometimes shift paths to confuse travelers. Helpful information to share earlier, Menma said dryly as he realized the path behind them had indeed changed configuration. Nami grinned. Where's the fun in that? Besides, I figured a ninja could handle a few moving trees. As they ventured deeper, Menma extended his senses, searching for unusual energy signatures. Several miles ahead, he detected a cluster of powerful presences, unique patterns unlike anything in his recovered memories. I think I found them, he said. 7 distinct signatures, all unusually strong in different ways. One feels stretched somehow. Like rubber. That's Luffy, Nami confirmed with evident relief. Devil fruit energies must register to your senses. The stretched quality is his gum power. They increased their pace, eager to reach the safety of numbers before their pursuers closed in. The forest grew more cooperative as they approached the Straw Hat camp, paths straightening rather than confusing their progress. The trees recognize me, Nami realized. They've seen me with Luffy before. Menma raised an eyebrow. Semi-sentient indeed. Just as the camp came within visual range, a collection of tents surrounding a cheerful campfire, Menma sensed movement above them. Without warning, he tackled Nami sideways as a black-clad figure dropped from the canopy, landing precisely where they had been standing. The attacker straightened slowly, revealing a feminine form in the distinctive attire of CP0, the highest tier of Cypher Pole agents. Her face was partially concealed behind a white mask decorated with black swirls. But her eyes were visible, cold and calculating. Uzumaki D. Menma, she stated, her voice surprisingly melodic. You've acquired knowledge restricted by World Government Directive 340. Surrender yourself for debriefing and integration. Menma helped Nami to her feet, positioning himself between her and the agent. I decline your invitation. It wasn't an invitation. The agent's stance shifted subtly, a telegraph of imminent attack that only another trained fighter would recognize. Before either could move, a new voice called from the trees, Oi, Nami. Who's your friend? And why's he about to fight CPO? All three looked up to see a young man perched on a branch, grinning broadly beneath a straw hat. His red vest hung open over a scarred chest, and despite his casual posture, Menma sensed immense power coiled within his lanky frame. Luffy, Nami called. Perfect timing. Monkey D. Luffy, captain of the Straw Hat Pirates, dropped to the forest floor with a rubbery ease that defied normal physics. He tilted his head, studying the CP0 agent with curious rather than hostile eyes. You're pretty far from Mariajoy, he observed. Must be something important. The agent reassessed the situation rapidly, clearly recognizing that the balance of power had shifted. This matter doesn't concern the Straw Hats, Monkey D. Luffy. The world government seeks only the dimensional anomaly. Dimensional. Luffy's interest visibly peaked. Like from another world. Cool. He turned to Menma with newfound excitement. You're from another world. Are there meat dishes there we don't have here? Do people poop differently? Nami facepalmed. Luffy. Focus. She's trying to capture Menma. The captain's demeanor shifted instantly, playfulness replaced by quiet intensity. Is that true? He asked the agent. You're after Nami's new friend. By authority of the world government. Don't care, Luffy interrupted, stepping forward. Nami brought him here, so he's under my protection now. That's how it works. The simple declaration carried surprising weight. The agent took an involuntary step backward, reassessing once more. This will escalate matters significantly, Straw Hat. Your crew is already priority targets. Then nothing changes, Luffy replied with a shrug. You should go now. My friends are waiting, and we're about to have dinner. The dismissal was clear. After a tense moment, the agent bowed slightly. This isn't the end of the matter. The world government will learn what the dimensional traveler has discovered, one way or another. Shish. E vanished in a blur of movement too fast for normal eyes to follow, though Menma tracked her retreat through the forest canopy. She'll report to her superiors, he warned. We should expect more pressure. Luffy's serious expression melted back into a carefree grin. That's future Luffy's problem. Present Luffy is hungry. He extended a hand to Menma. I'm Monkey D. Luffy, the man who's gonna be king of the pirates. The straightforward introduction, delivered with absolute conviction, reminded Menma powerfully of himself in younger days. He took the offered hand, feeling an immediate connection to this strange, rubber captain. Uzumaki D. Menma, or Naruto Uzumaki. I'm still figuring that part out. 2 names. That's confusing. I'll call you Whiskers, Luffy decided, pointing to Menma's facial marks. Before Menma could respond to this unexpected nickname, Nami interrupted. Luffy, this is serious. Menma has information about ancient artifacts connected to his world. The world government is hunting him. And there may be dimensional threats following him too. Sounds like an adventure. Luffy's enthusiasm remained undimmed. Come on, you can tell everyone over dinner. Sanji caught a sea king, and he's making steaks. As they followed Luffy toward the camp, Nami whispered to Menma, don't worry about his casual attitude. When it matters, there's no one I'd rather have on my side. I believe you, Menma replied, sensing the deep bond between navigator and captain. He reminds me of me. From before. The Straw Hat camp came fully into view, a haphazard collection of tents. Arranged around a central cooking area where a blond man in a suit tended a massive grill with professional precision. Nearby, a small reindeer wearing a hat sorted medicinal herbs while chatting wit. A dark-haired woman reading beneath a tree. A long-nosed man argued animatedly with a blue-haired figure who appeared to be partially mechanical, while a skeleton with an afro played a violin beside them. Everyone, Luffy announced loudly. Nami's back, and she brought Whiskers from another dimension. All activity ceased as 7 pairs of eyes turned toward the newcomers. Menma felt suddenly elf-conscious under their collective gaze. Another dimension, the reindeer exclaimed, eyes widening impossibly. For real, don't be absurd, Luffy, the blonde cook scoffed, though his eyes remained fixed on Menma's distinctive features. The dark-haired woman closed her book, her penetrating gaze assessing Menma with scholarly interest. Actually, interdimensional theory isn't as far-fetched as it might seem. The Void Century texts mention the possibility. Robin, Nami greeted her warmly. You have no idea how right you are. We found something you need to see. As the Straw Hats gathered around them with varying degrees of curiosity and skepticism, Menma felt a strange sense of belonging. These people, eccentric and powerful in their own ways, reminded him of precious comrades from his fragmented past. For the first time since awakening on this world's shores, he felt he might have found not just allies, but friends. The knowledge of the monument pulsed within him, connections worlds becoming clearer with each passing hour. Whatever challenges lay ahead, world government pursuit, the remaining monuments, or threats from his own dimension, he would not face them alone. The navigator's dilemma had been resolved. Her choice to help him had led them both to exactly where they needed to be. Chapter 2 End. Chapter 3. Shadows of the Past. The campfire crackled, sending sparks spiraling into the night sky. Around it sat the Straw Hat Pirates, their faces illuminated by the dancing flames as they absorbed the story Menma and Nami had just finished telling. The forest of Horizon Point seemed to lean in around them, trees bending slightly as if eavesdropping on this tale of other dimensions, ancient monuments, and the world government's shadowy interest in both. Luffy, cross-legged with his straw hat tilted back, whistled low. So you're a ninja who can make copies of himself, walk on water, and shoot wind from your hands. That's awesome. That's what you took from the entire interdimensional crisis explanation. Nami sighed, though her exasperation carried a note of fondness. Sanji, the crew's cook, exhaled a stream of cigarette smoke. It does sound far-fetched. But then again, he gestured toward Brook, the living skeleton currently sipping tea through non-existent throat muscles. Our standards for impossible are rather flexible. I find it fascinating, Robin said, her dark eyes reflecting the firelight as she studied Menma. Unlike the others, who expressed varying degrees of surprise or skepticism, the archaeologist's face showed only thoughtful curiosity. The idea that chakra and devil fruits might share a common origin could explain certain inconsistencies in ancient texts. Menma found himself drawn to her calm analytical approach. Why? The others bombarded him with questions about ninja techniques or his world's food or whether people there also pooped. Luffy's recurring inquiry. Robin asked about the monument's symbols and the historical implications of cross-dimensional contact. The writing system was similar to but distinct from anything I recognize, she mused, sketching symbols in a notebook as Menma described them. A proto-language that might predate the Void Century itself. You really believe all this? Zoro, the green-haired swordsman, asked. He'd remained mostly silent throughout the explanation, his single eye watching Menma with guarded interest. Robin nodded without hesitation. There are too many correlating factors to dismiss. The world government's reaction alone suggests validity. Speaking of which, Frankie, the cyborg shipwright, interjected, if these CP0 guys are after you, this island isn't super safe anymore. We should get moving. Back to the Sunny, Luffy agreed, referring to their ship. We can figure out what to do while sailing. About that, Nami said, exchanging glances with Menma. We may need to make a detour. The monument information revealed locations of 6 more stones scattered across the Grand Line. Usopp, the long-nosed sniper, groaned dramatically. Why am I not surprised? We can never just have a normal restocking trip. These monuments could be critical, Menma explained. If what I absorbed from the first one is any indication, they contain knowledge about the connection between our worlds, and possibly how to prevent more dangerous entities from crossing over. A sober silence fell as they recalled his description of the Otsutsuki fragment that had attacked Shellfish Island. If there's more of those freaky gray guys coming, Luffy said, unusually serious, we need to be ready. He slammed a fist into his palm. Nobody threatens my crew or my seas. Chopper, the reindeer doctor, approached Menma with professional interest. You mentioned your body heals quickly. Would you mind if I examined you? The interaction between chakra and our world's biology could be medically significant. And I'd like to study how your energy affects mechanical systems, Frankie added. The monument data might help upgrade the Sunny's defense mechanisms. We should also consider the strategic implications, Brook contributed, surprisingly practical despite his skeletal appearance. If the world government is actively monitoring dimensional breaches, they may have encountered other travelers before Menma-san. The Straw Hat's quick acceptance and practical approach to his situation surprised Menma. There was no extended debate about whether to believe him, no suspicion of his intentions, just immediate incorporation of this new reality into their worldview and planning. You're all taking this remarkably well, he observed. Luffy grinned. We've seen weirder stuff. Besides, Nami trusts you, and that's good enough for me. Something in that simple statement caught Menma off guard. The navigator's unexpected blush suggested it resonated with her too, Luffy's complete faith in her judgment. We should set sail at first light, Nami decided, recovering quickly. Marines could arrive any time following that CP0 encounter. As the crew began preparing for tomorrow's departure, distributing watches and securing the campsite, Menma found himself entirely alone with Robin at the edge of the firelight. The archaeologist was comparing her notes to a weathered book retrieved from her pack. Find anything useful? He asked, sitting beside her on a fallen log. Perhaps, she replied without looking up. There are references in pre-Void Century texts to visitors from beyond the Sky Sea, who carried the power of elements in their bodies without consuming the devil's fruit. Sky Sea could mean the space between dimensions, Menma suggested. Robin nodded, finally meeting his gaze. Exactly. The timing aligns with the earliest known apparank. Of devil fruits in historical records, approximately 800 years ago, just before the century of which nothing must be spoken. Your world has forbidden history too. The parallel surprised him. 100 years erased from all records by world government decree, Robin confirmed. Her voice remained measured, but Menma sensed deep emotion beneath the scholarly facade. Seeking that knowledge is punishable by death. Yet you pursue it anyway. A small, defiant smile curved her lips. Knowledge is worth the risk. Some truths demand to be uncovered, regardless of who tries to bury them. The conviction in her words resonated with something in Menma, a familiar determination to seek truth despite powerful opposition. Another fragment of memory surfaced, standing before elders, demanding answers about his parents. About the fox sealed within him. In my world, he said slowly, I grew up with secrets kept from me, about my origins, about a powerful entity sealed inside my body. When I finally learned the truth, it changed everything. Robin studied him with new interest. And was the knowledge worth the pain it brought? Yes. The answer came without hesitation. Always. Some thing passed between them then. Recognition of kindred spirits, of shared experience despite their different origins. Robin's guarded expression softened slightly. The monument information you absorbed, she said, returning to her notes. You mentioned it revealed something about devil fruits being the fruit of the great tree. Menma nodded, focusing on the fractured knowledge that had flowed into him from the stone. In my world, there was a legend about the god tree, a plant that absorbed chakra from the earth itself. Its fruit granted godlike power to whoever ate it, similar to how devil fruits grant specific powers here. Robin mused. Yet the monuments suggest a key difference. Chakra users maintain their connection to all elements, while devil fruit users gain one power but lose their connection to the sea. A trade-off, Menma agreed. Specialized power versus versatile energy. Their discussion continued into the night, long after most of the crew had retired to their tents. Robin's knowledge of ancient civilizations complemented Menma's growing understanding of the chakra monument, each insight building upon the last until a clearer picture began to emerge. So these stones might function as a network, Robin concluded, sketching a rough map. If we plot the locations from the marine data you stole, they form a pattern. Menma leaned closer, tracing the arrangement of islands. Almost like a massive seal formula. Seal formula. In my world, ninjas use written symbols to create seals, techniques that can contain energy, reinforce barriers, or even imprison powerful beings. His finger circled the pattern. This looks similar to a dimensional anchoring seal, something that could stabilize connections between worlds. Robin's eyes widened with the implications. If these monuments form a seal connecting our dimensions, and someone were to control or destroy them, they could potentially sever the connection entirely, Menma finished. Or worse, destabilize it enough to cause a catastrophic merger. The crackling fire cast long shadows as they contemplated this possibility, the weight of their discovery settling between them. We should share this with the others in the morning, Robin finally said, closing her notebook. For now, you should rest. Dimensional travel and monument absorption seem rather taxing experiences. Menma smiled at her understated humor. I've had better weeks. As they returned to the main camp, Menma noticed something odd, a faint disturbance in the natural energy around them, like ripples in a still pond. His senses, growing sharper with each recovered memory, detected a presence at the forest's edge, watching, evaluating. He paused, extending his awareness further, but the presence vanished before he could identify it. Something wrong? Robin asked, noticing his tension. We're being observed, he said quietly. Something familiar, but not